Well, we are sitting here with the 2024 SA Carp champion. And not only on an individual or a pair basis, but also as a province. Jason Prinsloo down from the EP. Congratulations on an excellent performance for you guys, you and Potty, on your peg, and to your team entirely, walking away with all the gold.
Thank you so much, Werner. Yeah, what a pleasure to be here, and what a week we experienced. Jeez, it was a real team effort.
So we are going to talk about two things. We're going to have two different sections. The first one, we're going to talk about your performance on the peg itself, because you guys took obviously the zone and then the individual performance. But what was significant is that in terms of your back weight, you were almost untouchable. Nobody got close. Just share with our viewers, what did you weigh and how many fish that was?
So we caught 250 fish that weighed at a bag mass of just short of 713 kilograms. Yeah, it was incredible. We started from first cast, from 15 minutes in. We landed our first fish, and it just never stopped, which is not normal. We really were blessed this time.
I thought you planned it all to be like that. I thought that's how you envisaged it.
Jeez, I tell you what, we got to the first night sleeping patterns, and boy, that was out the window. We planned to sleep 3 hours on the first night. I looked at Potty and said, "Potts, I don't know what we're going to do yet. I know the fish are biting." It was past my time to go and sleep, and we had to recalculate very quickly. I think this was an essay of recalculations all the way, of where, when, we slept when we don't normally sleep. We knew we had to sleep to keep the performance going. But I mean, Potty threw the first fish rock. So I normally throw the first two long ones past 150, and then Potty, plays the middle game. And his first one is 105, and from there we just never looked back. He nailed the first fish in its mouth, and the rest is history, I suppose.
Now, in terms of when you got to the water, you obviously had a plan. So you said, okay, this is how we were going to start. So what was that you put on the table for yourself? What was that first 6 hours? What was your intention?
Okay, so the intention was, so I just want to go back a little bit. Obviously now the marker float and plotting your swim has become quite a difficult thing, because you weren't able to do it prior to the tournament start at 10. So we had the plan that we're going to throw the marker float, and we were going to pull it down to the ground and leave it until we had time and we had thrown our feed in and all of that. Our number one game plan in terms of fishing was to fish as light as possible, number one, and find where the fish were in terms of distance. So that was number one plan. And like I said, Potty found a 105 mark, and I think we hit about 3 in the first 45 minutes on that. And I got one at over 150. So, a dream setup. We had it similar in the Champ of Champs. So Potty and I nailed the very first. He got it at 125 at Verlatenkraal. This time he got it at 1. So he seems to be my lucky charm at the moment. And again, moving back to the feed, we were going to feed as fine as possible, give them nothing to eat, and just try and, put the feed in the column, and hopefully it triggered them, which it seriously did. Yeah.
When you started and you put the marker float out, what was the distance, or no, rather the depth? What was the depth that you were going to look for before you hit that magic mark?
So I normally like to look for 2 spots on the swim. Generally one around 6 meters, and then you try and find the drop off in the front. So, I mean, it was like absolute. I threw the marker float at 125, and at about 95, we found 5.8 meters of water. That A zone, I can see why so many people catch such nice bags there, is because you basically have a drop off in the front, and it just plateaus by like 100 mils all the way out. And it was a nice area to fish. I normally sit, for the last 4 years, I've sat in the C zone, which is, you know, Christo and Saki, we had to advise them quite hard in that, because it really is a challenging zone. And we got the best zone, in my opinion. So we found at 9,500, we found the best place where we believe to feed. And that just worked from the start.
Okay, but now, if I understand it correctly, you put in the marker float, you didn't do the plumbing, you put a cast
Yeah.
out, you started catching.
Yeah,
Without
absolutely.
even anything.
So our first feed, we just threw in as far as I could, and then basically started plumbing. So by the time we had 4 fish, we still hadn't finished pulling one line yet. Because we were in the fish, we only pulled the one line to see where, and it became one of confirming where we wanted the long spot, and the second one was how short we had to feed the short spot.
And what was that?
It was between 30 and 35 meters is where it was a 1.5 meter drop.
Yeah.
So I like to sling. You know, the spoon and all of that works really nicely, but I like to sling. And slinging at 35 is an art. It's not as easy as it looks. And the 100-meter sling is pretty straightforward, but the 95 sling, but the 35 sling is quite tough.
Okay, so where did you then start that 105? Was that then the long one where you actually planned the long one to be further, or what did it pan out in terms of catching fish? What were your distances that you caught?
So we started with 2 rods over 150. That was my 2 rods. We got a couple of fish on those, but it lay quite a lot longer than that 105 to 115 range. So, I mean, it must have looked quite nuts, because I was too worried to mark the lines, because I didn't know where the depths were going to go to. So Porty and I literally measured out every time we caught a fish. So we got 14 fish on the first day, and we literally went and measured to make sure that we were on point. We didn't leave it to chance. Only once we had really started getting into the fish, we marked our lines, and then we started fishing on the mark. I mean, again, one of those things, you normally have a rod on the first day and you sort of catch a few, 3 or 4 fish. This time we had to be quite diligent in terms of going to make sure we measured it, put in the effort, because if you mark your lines too early, you've got too many marks on the reel, and when you get tired, it becomes one of those where, shit, did I hit the right mark? Did I miss it? So we took the diligent route, and we went and literally measured every rod. Our performance, if I had to sum it up in one word, was we strive for efficiency, and we put in so much effort that that was our game. Put in effort and go for it.
Okay, so now let's just consolidate on that. So that 105-meter line, which was like 6 meters type of a thing, that's what you're talking. That was the one spot. And then you also decided to do that first drop off. How many fish did you catch there?
We didn't. So once the fish were going on the long spot, we most probably only caught 10 fish on the short drop. But we always left it as an insurance in case the backdrop disappeared. And I would say we put 80% of our feed on the long spot. I can tell you I've got sore body parts still to today. So we put most of our feed in at the long spot, just purely because the fish played that, they didn't move. They just stayed there. Yeah. And so we fed a lot at that back spot.
At that 105?
95 actually.
Okay.
So we fished at 105 and we fed at 95.
Okay.
So there was about I've got 100 mil lines on my marker rod. So that's how I can tell the difference in terms of and it literally was just a fall off of 100 mils per 10 meters or so.
Okay, so it's a slow drop. So did you ever fish that 95 as well, or did you stay behind it for the bigger fish?
So we definitely, the nice thing for us was we fished 85, 95, 105, 110, 150. We literally played within the margin, in the feed lines.
Yes.
And that was where we had our most success. So sometimes they actually were on the inside of the feed, all the way through to 115, I would say was the most, between 85 and 115.
Okay, what did you put in as feed on that 95?
So I've fed a lot of soft feed, a lot. We went through a lot of bowline feed. We cook particles, we put tiger nuts, peanuts. I don't feed chickpeas because I use them as hook baits. We used maize and then hemp and all soft feed. I only fed 3 kilos of hard balls the whole tournament.
Okay, good. Now let's move down to the business end of the stick. We'll put up a picture now of one of the presentations that you had, and that's this one, the bottom bait. What is that, and why?
So that's a chickpea. We basically, so we try and fish baits that are neutrally buoyant and bottom baits. I mean, it's no secret that the EP fishes with chickpeas of different flavors. So the flavor, to be honest, didn't make as hell of a difference as where the bait was. So we fished the bottom bait, and then we fished one that was neutrally buoyant.
In the PVA,
and that was what we played around with that a lot.
In the PVA bag, what was special?
So bowline feed. There was nothing special. You know, this is the hardest part. People have been asking me, what did you do different this year, or what was your secret? There's one or two little things where we've innovated a lot, but to be honest with you, it was just the effort, and we practiced before we did. I mean, it was just plain bowline that we stumped on the peg, and yes, it worked. I can't even describe it. It's
okay,
what we normally do.
This picture, the one of the floating bait, or the nutrient buoyant one that picked up. Tell us about this one.
Okay, so the bait basically is a punched tiger nut, 8 mils. Sometimes we tried a 6 mil bait when it was punched tiger. We used different color sarters. It played an important role through the day, depending on what time. So we like the white, yellow, black, and red were our 4 colors. And again, we were just diligent. When the fish came on, we paid particular thing to the color of the sarter. The flavor for me was not as important as the smaller nitty-gritty things. What color, you know, often I would run to Potty when he landed the fish and say, you know, what was the color of the sarter? Because we would have put all 4 out the minute it goes quiet, and then you start working towards all 4 rods with the same color sarter. And that was really what we did.
And was there a rule of thumb that said white in the mornings, black in the afternoons, or anything like that you could pick up?
Funny enough, normally, you know, you look in the day and the night and there's distinct colors. We didn't find that in terms of this was it. The nighttime colors, like a red for me would be a nighttime color, that ran into the day and sometimes through the whole day. So in terms of that, we just paid diligence to, okay, this is what's biting now. We lived in the here and now. This is what's biting now. The years that we've been fishing says this is the color, but it's not like that this time, and we worked on that principle.
Last question on the individual performance. Did you lose any or many fish?
We lost a few in the late part of the game. I think that was more so out of body fatigue. And yeah, I mean, Potty and I, when we were driving back from the Champ of Champs, we've got a hell of a 9-hour drive, and we've got lots, you know, a little to talk about. So we made a commitment to each other on the drive back from Verlatenkraal that we were going to be in the best shape that we could be in 8 weeks' time. And we gymmed. I mean, I gymmed every single night for 8 weeks. Potty was running. We were sending videos of each other gymming to inspire each other, to make sure that, you know, we were in the best shape we could be. And I think that if anything, we need to start a little bit earlier, because the last few hours, you know, you start losing a few fish, and I think that's where where our efficiency and that sort of moved away a little bit. But I mean, again, from a perfect platform, it's easy to make these things. But we definitely put in a lot of effort for this.
Okay. Okay, we're going to come back a little bit later, and then we're going to talk about your team performance.
Awesome. Thank you.